And we've got all the right in the world on our side. And there ain't no reason to be afraid. And there ain't no reason to not take the challenge dead on. Because I'm going to tell you who we come from, folks. We don't come from some weak, jellyback, spineless people. That's not who we come from. None of us. And it doesn't matter what color you are, what nation your folks hail from, how much money you got. We all share the same name. We are Americans. And at Bunker Hill, there was Americans. And at Fredericksburg and Gettysburg, there was Americans. And at Iwo Jima, raising that flag on Suribachi, it was Americans. And at Pork Chop Hill, there was Americans. Quezon, there was Americans. And on 9/11, there was Americans who ran towards those burning buildings. That is who you share your heritage with. You do not share your heritage with a weak and ineffective people who cower at the sight of trouble. You share your heritage with a strong and brave people who are determined to hold on to their freedom and for the freedom of future generations. Guys, it's time for us to stand up and be that generation. It's time for us to stand strong and proud and remember who we are. That we are Americans. And as long as we stand as the vanguard of freedom in this nation, freedom will survive. Not only survive, but thrive. So guys, it's time to put on our packs. It's time to fix those bayonets. It's time to get ready. We got a fight on our hands. And our fight is not for us, for all those generations that's going to come behind us. Let's save America, folks.
We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
Hey there, folks. Welcome to the program. Do me a favor, would you please? Will you please raise your finger and share this program? Like, subscribe, share. We're going to take a little bit of a historic journey today. It applies today when you think about, what we're going through as a nation. Think about what you're watching happen in the UK. Think about the fact that, well, we're dealing with the Iran issue, and we're kind of coming to a crossroad in history. So we're going to take a sobering look back at history, and we're going to do it through the eyes of Theodore Roosevelt. And I think you'll like it. It's going to be an interesting journey just to kind of slow down and take a look. By the way, today's program is brought to you by the fine folks at Goldco. Now, I want to let you know something. I told you, right, that you need to pay attention to this. I told you. Because the digital currency is coming, right? Sorry, I had to clean my glasses there. Let me see if I can find something here real quick. I want to show you something. Let's see if I've got it on my desktop. Let's see. Hang on. Here you go. I'm going to show you this because I've been telling you this quite a long time. Even for the last few months, I've been saying, pay attention. Hotels in various places on the road are not taking cash anymore. Watch this.
Nuestro objetivo es que este año, a través de los esquemas que trabajemos con la banca, hagamos obligatorio el pago de las gasolinas y de las casetas a través de manera digital. Esto va a permitir potenciar los pagos digitales accesibles que nos permitan avanzar en la digitalización del país a través de muchos otros esquemas.
Think about how close that is. President of Mexico says, through these schemes, we got to do it. We got to advance it. It's Mexico. It's right across our border. You will not be able to buy fuel if you don't get into the digital system.
Nuestro objetivo es que este año, a través de los esquemas que trabajemos con la banca, hagamos obligatorio el pago de las gasolinas y de las casetas a través de manera digital. Esto va a permitir potenciar los pagos digitales accesibles que nos permitan avanzar en la digitalización del país a través de muchos otros esquemas.
I told you it's coming. I've been telling you for a long time. This is why you've got to protect yourself from the system. Okay, so request your free gold and silver kit today. Just go to the fine folks I partner with at Gold Co., JovanLovesGold.com, because now is the time to protect your money with gold and silver. It is coming. And there's going to be an adjustment down. You've got to be able to take care of yourself. This is exactly why I've been telling you this for years, whether you focused or not. I'm telling you, get energy sovereign, food sovereign, everything you can do. That's why I produce the books I do. That's why I try to help you the way I do understand these things. Okay? It's coming. And you're going to have to deal with it. And that's why in a lot of my stuff, I'm doing my best to give you some tools to understand how it all works, where all the catches are, and to set yourself free. But it is not far off, and you're right. Schemes. What an apt word. They want to track everything. And oh, by the way, just so you know, let me see if I have this other little ditty. Hang on. Let me just while we're on it, okay? Just while we're on it. Let me see if I've got it. Hold on. Let me think. I thought I had it in video form. Let me just check real quick. I could have swore I had it in video form. Well, I'll play it for you this week. Under various new laws that they put in place, they're going to require track and trace reporting on livestock, specifically cattle. And they want to know when vets saw them or when you vaccinated them. And then to maintain your right to sell, you're going to have them on the system. And they're going to make sure those cattle have vaccines. If you're not following the system and don't report, they can seize your animals and land. Told you it's coming, folks. Anyway, speaking of, health or whatever, I'm going to play you one public service announcement for those of you that the not quite so American Cancer Society. Listen to how culture has been appropriated.
PSA. If you regularly wax off your body hair, I think you should know that this is an appropriation of the culture of cancer patients, and it harms all of us. If you get your body hair waxed and you have been a cancer patient in the past, don't worry, you're in the clear. If you, however, have not been a cancer patient before and are waxing off your body hair, this is cultural appropriation. And while this page is a judgment-free zone, I do welcome you to acknowledge the harms that you are doing to the cancer community and really think about your actions and the impact of them.
So I shave my head every now and then. I shave my face. Am I offending the cancer community? Those of you that shave your nether regions, oh my God, you've culturally appropriated cancer victims. Can you believe this stuff?
PSA. If you regularly wax off your body hair, I think you should know that this is an appropriation of the culture of cancer patients, and it harms all of us. If you get your body hair waxed and you have been a cancer patient in the past, don't worry, you're in the clear. If you, however, have not been a cancer patient before and are waxing off your body hair, this is cultural appropriation. And while this page is a judgment-free zone, I do welcome you to acknowledge the harms that you are doing to the cancer community and really think about your actions and the impact of them.
I say revolt, offend them all. Ladies, get out the shavers and shave up. Let's just protest this. Boy, we are screwed. I guess that's what's kind of happening. Oh, microaggressions. Okay. Well, we're gonna We're going to have an interesting time in history. Share this program right now. We'll get started right after this.
Rennie Good was a gifted soul, a writer and a poet and a mother, wow. She tried to hit an agent with her car, oh no! Pop, motherfucker, now she's gone! Yeah, yeah, yeah! Being a fucking liberal is a mental disease. Blue-haired and fuckables with the septum ring. You are not a hero, you're a fucking disease! You fuck around and find out it's what it is! Jeffrey Pretty was a Jewish homo. Started talking shit to protect a chomo. He was getting nicked when he pulled a gun. Bam, motherfucker, now you're gone! Yeah, yeah, yeah! Being a fucking liberal is a mental disease. Blue-haired and fuckables with the septum ring. You are not a hero, you're a fucking disease! Fuck around and find out what that is!
Warning. The following program has been rated Gilligaff and is intended for open-minded audiences. If the truth offends you, or if you are allergic to focused intensity, intellectual athleticism, or the occasional F-bomb or even irreverent humor, please switch off now. If your delicate sensibilities need to be worried about or addressed, might we recommend the Underwater Basket Weaving channel to you? Otherwise, sit back, enjoy the wisdom, insight, and wicked sense of humor.
Cut the crap. How many times a day do you want to say that to politicians? The elite, the loony liberals, the fake news media, and the gender-confused emotional socialist snowflake crowd. Cut the crap is your secret weapon for fighting for our freedoms and our great republic. It all begins with a massive mental enema, freeing you from the toxic news and politically correct views, which constipate your consciousness with stinking thinking. Your host, Jovan Hutton Pulitzer. He's known for calling out politicians and telling them to cut the crap. You've seen him on virtually every television network and listened to him on Coast to Coast Radio. And now he's here to help you learn to fight for America. Culture, race, and American politics. They all have one thing in common. They all need to cut the crap. Now, here's your host, Jovan Hutton Pulitzer.
Okay, folks, welcome to the crap. We're going to do a history lesson today. And we're going to bring it through the eyes of Theodore Roosevelt. And then there are men like Theodore Roosevelt. A lesson in life worth remembering today. By the way, shout out over on Joe Snake. Prayers for the United States of America from your friend on Prince Edward Island, Canada. Thank you, Joe. Appreciate that. Hey, Kimberly, how you doing? I just got a question. First off, I hear that Helen took a vacay. So that's why we didn't see Helen posting. But I have a question. You know, we're all family and friends here. Where's Peggy? I've asked a few times. I haven't had any answer. Where is Peggy? I haven't seen her popping up. Haven't seen her going on. Has anybody heard from Peggy? Just asking. Okay. Here's what we're going to do today. You know, we sat and we're waiting for whatever the hell's going to happen in Iran. President Trump, you know, gave him a short time, get your crap together, or we're going to whatever. I watched people on the ground. It's kind of weird and concerning to me. We're watching Alex Jones basically berate the president and telling him he's nuts for this war. And then you see Candace saying the president must be removed. It's all crap. Anyway, and I'm wondering why Alex is doing that when you watch people on the ground in Iran celebrating this, knowing they're going to be bombed and stuff, going, what the hell are you talking about? This is the greatest thing in the world. Anyway, it's all kind of a kerfuckle, whatever it is, right? It's going to be stressful, maybe for the last few days. But you know what? That's why I am only covering it very briefly. We're not going to get anywhere discussing it, right? It's not going to make you feel any stronger. It's not going to make you feel any better or anything like that. We've got to be able to take care of ourselves. When I saw this thing coming out of Mexico that they're going digital gas stations and stuff, look, the writing's on the wall of what they're going to do. And so this comes down. I've been telling you for quite a while, you better get your stuff ready. You better start taking care of yourself. And you better now begin to think of this as your front door and your back door. Used to be your front gate and your back gate, right? Because you've got to take care of you. And I know most of you are saying, I'm trying, I'm working on it and whatever. I gave you how you could, in a corner of your yard, in a 10-foot by 10-foot square, I gave you something where you could, in fact, do a food forest that small. It can actually be done. But in that theme of just all this crap going on, we've been here before. It's just new tools, new techniques, new styles, new methodologies. But in reality, it's the same old shit. It's just the truth. And we are the economic engine, right? We are we're the not only the glue, but we're the money that keeps us going. But it is all about control. And I'm very, very, very worried about what's happening to our food supply. But at many times, and you're right, Greg, same movie, but now in Technicolor. I just want to focus on, I want to get very selfish. Yes, a lot of stuff's going over in Iran. Anything you say, I say, or we discuss, it's not going to change a damn thing right now. Just isn't. So I decided to go back in time, into time, of where our country was under stress, under threat, under siege, or highly questionable things were going on, to look at, well, how did we get through it? What really happened? Right? What really happened? And it's where I stumbled upon this. Yeah, you're right. We're the battery units. Right? We're the battery units. And I don't want anybody wasting their time. It would be a total waste of time right now for me to cover any of the total absolute bullshit that's trending among conservative people. What we're going to talk about, how many different flavors, Baskin Robbins, can you hear the same thing regurgitated back to you by people who aren't even involved? So I want to use our time. You're right, Zod. It ain't a fucking movie. It'd be great if a movie, because the movie ends. This is an episodic marathon series. I just want to focus on us. And with that, I came across a story, a quote actually, that's attributed to Theodore Roosevelt. But when I looked up this really interesting quote, it was actually attributed to a man in Southwest Virginia, the very, very far corner of Southwest Virginia. And it just kind of, just struck me like a very common sense statement. And so with that, I want to give you a life lesson that Theodore Roosevelt gave, and it's the man's real, by the way. The name is Squire Bill Widener, Widener. His name was William Meek Widener. He lived from 1840 to 1920. They have a family plot. I was able to find the family plot. It only has one Widener stone, and then they're known by their first and last name. That's where you find the stone. So he was born in 1840, and he died in 1920. And Theodore Roosevelt, in his autobiography, called him Squire Bill Widener of Widener's Valley, Virginia. And he had a saying, and he introduced this fellow with a line: do what you can with what you've got where you are. That was the line that got me. Do what you can with what you've got with where you are. Now, I thought about that. A lot of people, want to get into homesteading and other stuff. A lot of people wish I could just move, I could get land, I could do whatever. Right? We always think about, could our lot in life be better? And do we want to be isolated on top of a mountain? Do we want to be in a valley somewhere? Do we want to, be on some tropical island and just taking our damn it all pills and forget about it? But then there's the simple fact of what he said that stuck with President Roosevelt, which I thought was interesting. By the way, speaking of interesting, immediately following this program, I'm going to be on my locals and we're going to be discussing 72 virgins. Wonder how long it'd take to find that many. Anyway, we're going to be discussing Islam and 72 virgins right after we get this. I'm going to give you some information on that. And I'm going to give you my battle with the AI engines to produce an image depiction from the description of a Horus, H-O-U-R-I-S. Interesting battle. No Christian filters, but Islamic filters to enough when they're talking about Islam, they say, even after they say the prophet, they put in quotes, may he be blessed. AI. Anyway, that's what we're going to be talking about on that episode. So let's talk about Mr. Wilder real quick. He's a real fellow. And this quote, which Roosevelt gets attributed to, but he actually says, no, it's Squire Billy Widener's quote: do what you can with what you've got. Now, this William Meek Squire was a predominant figure in the Valley. He was a miller, a millwright, a teacher, Sunday school superintendent, justice of the peace. That's where the title Squire came from. He was a Confederate soldier, right? And he is actually buried at the Rush Creek Cemetery in Washington County. And he's considered one of President Roosevelt's friends or confidants or whatever the case may be. So I just want to share with you this story. It's kind of a narrative of what is this sentiment of where you are. Focus on where you are. Because I know many times all of us can get wrapped up in dreams, and your dreams never stop. You can have 10 acres and you want 100 acres. You can have 100 acres and you want 1,000 acres. You can have 1,000 acres and you want 10,000 acres. It never stops. So what about that slowing down? What do you have? What are your resources? And what can you do with it, right? What do you have? What are your resources? And what can you do with it? And that kind of stuck with me, right? It kind of stuck with me. And so in this life, some people are born to not be very brave. And I believe courage is contagious. So if we look at that life, there are some men that are born for comfort, and then there are people like Theodore Roosevelt. I even learned things that I did not know about Roosevelt, right? He was kind of, I mean, you can kind of see it in his face. A man who was forged in pressure, hammered by weakness, loss, struggle, and duty. And what emerged, and we can all know this in Theodore Roosevelt, is something harder than circumstance, something stronger than fear, something that does not wait for permission from a world before stepping into it. One of the greatest books I ever read was some of Roosevelt's hunting expeditions. Again, I always like learning new things, and I didn't know this, but one of the most dangerous animals in North America running loose that was a dangerous killer. What was that animal? The most dangerous animal, not a, you say a boar, that makes sense, even more dangerous. It killed more people than any one animal in the United States of America, right? Not even a bear. I know you saying it. Not a moose, not any of that, not a pig, not a snipe, of course. The most dangerous animal way back when in the Americas, not a snake, not a cougar, longhorn. Now I was like, what? Because one of our family ranches, we raised longhorns forever. What was the longhorn? And very interesting back then, and you can read it in these stories, and that's how I came across this Teddy Roosevelt story, because he came in to find and track down a man killer. And now I've seen this happen in my own life, even though I raised longhorns and they can be very docile. Something happened to the longhorn that's a symbol for mankind. When they roamed, the Spanish brought them in eons ago. And when they basically adapted and became what they were, that we now know as longhorn now, and kind of traveled openly, they were very dangerous to men. They were known to chase down, hunt down, and rip apart. Now, that description, rip apart mankind. And they would have hunting parties to go exterminate these things. And I was always amazed by that description in these autobiographical texts and stuff. They would rip apart men. Well, evidently, the spirit of the longhorn, they were truly wild. And when they saw a man, right, they would run him down and obliterate him. Now, I saw this happen in real time, not to a man, but I'll explain it to you. When we were raising our longhorn, I had one mama that had a small calf on her from the morning. And we had a problem with somebody had dumped on the ranch road way up the way a dog that nobody could capture or whatever, and he just kind of went wild. And he was a big dog. And one day he's stalking, and he's coming in the field, and I could see the mama watching him. She's just kind of doing her thing, and here's the little calf over here. And that dog's kind of creeping in, trying to get to the calf. Now, I'm watching it the whole time through my scope. Don't want to take the shot to kill the dog unless I have to really understand what was going on. And just about that time that dog got fairly close to the mama, she just basically swung her head sideways, boom. And she hit that dog, right? She hit that dog at its lowest rib point, and that horn just went straight through that dog. Boom, came out the other side like in a horror movie. And all she did was kind of flick her head twice like this, and that dog went into two parts. I shit you not. It was in the blink of an eye. Boom. And it was then I kind of understood what they say men would rip apart. But what happened, and Theodore Roosevelt's telling this because he came in to hunt some of these down, that when they finally got the prairies fenced and the longhorn learned and understood they were fenced, they stopped being that way. Now, I've always thought that's really odd, but really just a good thing of mankind. You know, the cattle, when men came in, when these longhorn came in, that's when they would be defensive about their territories, very defensive. And I've had one of my old big longhorns come at me one time, and about the only thing that saved me is I ran back into the corner and put my hands on the pipe fence and went up, and he came straight out. Luckily, you know, he had over a 6-foot span on his horns and couldn't get quite at me, but he tried to turn. But they went docile. The moment they were fenced and they understood they were fenced, the longhorn as a wild animal stopped. You can look it up. They just stopped. They didn't go run after mankind anymore or whatever. I mean, I guess you could get and provoke them, but it was this old spirit in the country and stuff. And so it's a lot of this Theodore Roosevelt stuff that he was a man that lived by rough standards. He wasn't afraid of anything, right? And that's why I said, you know, he's formed of pressure, hammered to death by weakness, hammered to death by loss and struggle and duty. And when we got a president out of that, was stronger than fear, something that does not wait for permission from the world before stepping in it. And so Roosevelt was kind of born under that picture of strength, right? But what's really interesting, the picture of strength you have for Teddy Roosevelt is not what he really was. If you think back of Teddy Roosevelt and you think Rough Riding, that's it. When Teddy Roosevelt was born, he was very sickly and very frail. He was a boy that during the night many times struggled for breath. I don't know if we would call it asthma or whatever, right? So his childhood gave him a reason to retreat from life. There was nothing in his life to make him embrace life. He was just a sickly kid and ignored. And so his whole life was he had to live cautiously, right? Timidly from the sidelines. But in Theodore Roosevelt, he decided, just like any of us can decide this, we can feel we're limited. We can feel life has given us a sack of crap. And we can either be like these longhorn and just accept our sad sack and that's it, and we're captured. And so, you know, we take our damn it all pills and just don't worry about it. Or we can decide that's not for us. That's what Theodore Roosevelt did. He decided it's not for him, that he wasn't going to sit on the sidelines. And right now there's a lot of us, and that's why I even decided to cover this, and a lot of us that feels like we're just kind of watching this from the sidelines, right? We're seeing our world and everything just kind of being nuts of Pulitzer, out of control, government spending out of control. What do we got now in California? They now confirm, and it may be the end of Newsom, but they now confirm $170 billion stolen. $170 billion stolen. But many times we watch this and we just think we're on the sidelines. We're not. So somewhere out of that trial by fire furnace, right? Because that's what it is. Where he had early suffering, a conviction took root, right? You're right. Feeling helpless, telling people we are the ones to change things. And I know and that's part of why I'm doing this. I know it's kind of hard to believe that we're the cure when we all feel so helpless. And this is kind of where it went, because I talked about it. It doesn't matter if you have 1 acre of land, you want 10 acres, you want 100 or whatever. Everybody wants a little different lot in life. And Roosevelt basically pledged long on that his life would not be ruled or mastered by wishing. That was kind of his motto he taught, that he would not be conquered by complaint or complacency, and that the world would not yield itself to the hesitant. He kind of knew that nothing's going to happen. Weakness cannot be conquered by complaint. I've kind of said this before when I talk about we're the cure. Bitching does nothing. And a lot of programs and stuff, people will get together, and I guess those who bitch together stay together, bitches. But you don't understand? And it just becomes a bitch fest. That's why so many times I kind of buck the system. I'm not going to cover the same old shit everybody's covering, just bitching about it. Because all that is bitching, moaning, complaining, bitching, moaning, complaining. And the weaknesses of our country or whatever cannot be conquered by complaining. It has to be action, right? Action. And the world does not move to those who are hesitant to move, right? And so Roosevelt said if he's going to have a life at all, a full life of consequence, he would have to seize it with discipline and will and relentless effort. And that's the lesson that marked Theodore Roosevelt. And this is where the saying comes in. And it's a saying, like I told you at the beginning, that was associated with his name. He used it in his autobiography, but it wasn't actually his, right? You're right, Zod. To complain is to consent. It's all about action. And so he kind of summed up his life in one short saying that's actually, it's attributed to him. You'll find the quote that it's attributed to Theodore Roosevelt, but it's actually not his saying. And some people kind of treat this as a quote. It's more like a distillation of his soul. But the quote was, do what you can. Do what you can with what you have and where you are. Now, I thought about that. Do what you can with what you have and where you are. It's not a kind of a passive saying. It's not just kind of a cheerful advice for hard mornings. It's certainly not the language of comfort. This is the language that we all, I hope, understand here. This is the language of duty, of realism, in a world where mankind has never had ideal conditions. Think about that. There is no such thing as the ideal conditions. Doesn't matter what it is. And many times, it's just like instructing our lawmakers to do what's right. That's our duty. But instead of doing our duty to instruct our lawmakers, what do we end up doing? We end up freaking wishing for our lawmakers to do right. And that's the passive part of it. And that's not the realism part of it. Now, Roosevelt knew this. And whether I say Roosevelt or Roosevelt, doesn't matter. It's still the Welt. You know what I'm talking about. Theodore Roosevelt knew something many people spend their whole lives resisting. And it's kind of where we are today. Most of life is lived before the conditions are perfect. Isn't that interesting? It's a kind of a subtle change, but think about it. We work our asses off. We try to build what we're going to build, raise great kids. Maybe you're trying to make your property the way you want your property to be. Whatever it is. And you finally get to that end of that freaking runway. And I tell you this, I struggle with this, guys. I have so much to do in life. And I don't know how much runway I've got. I can remember in my 30s, when I turned 30, hit a little bit depressing because I'd already done monumental things in my 20s, thinking, how am I going to top that? And then in my 40s, of course, and it just keeps on going, right? But now, at a time when my body, I wake up one morning and my ankle hurts real bad, across the top of my foot and the ball of my ankle, and then I go, what did I do? And I didn't do anything, and then I realize 47 freaking years ago, it's where an accident, 2 particular breaks, and all of a sudden I get up one morning and I feel it, which has me, right? Every bit of us, every one of us go through this, thinking about runway. And we have so much to do. And then you get the realization that I learned from even studying this Roosevelt thing is that you actually end up living most of your life before the conditions are perfect. If you actually get to the conditions are perfect. And boy, that was really sobering for me. Right? It was really sobering. And that's about the struggle. See, the tools are incomplete. The hour is always, always, always inconvenient. Your body's tired, the money's short, the path is unclear. The burden's heavy, and the odds are unfair. Can you relate? Tools are incomplete, hours inconvenient, your body hurts, the money's short, the path is unclear, the grief is real, the pain is real, the burden is heavy, and the odds are unfair. And still life asks you the same question. What will you do now? In case you just tuned in, we're studying a quote, which you see on your screen, do what you can and what you have, where you are. It's attributed to Roosevelt, but it was a friend of his that actually did it, and he wrote it in his autobiography. And so the whole lesson is when your body, when everything's asking, what will you do now? The idea is not tomorrow, not when you feel ready, not when fortunes finally smile on you. If I can just get to this, then I can do this. Not when somebody finally understands you or funds you or heals you or rescues you or invites you. But now. But now. And this is Theodore Roosevelt's world. That's the world he lived in. That's the example he set. And in many ways, that's his message. He lived in motion and exertion, right in the teeth of events, right? He was both at the same time a scholar and a rancher, a reformer and a hunter. He was the police commissioner, a governor, a soldier, a president, an explorer, and a writer. He charged up hills, crossed rivers. He was a boxer, bare knuckle fisted boxer. Most don't know that. And what he did is he rode, he argued, he built, he fought, he read, he led, and he did not merely admire life from a safe distance. He entered it. He entered it. But if you're going to begin to understand that force of the message, you have to understand Roosevelt's creed was not born with ease. It was born out of struggle. And that's the whole point here. We are all right now collectively struggling. It's the old adage, if it doesn't kill you, make you better. It sucks. It hurts. It's painful, but it's true. Lord, is it true? But when you look at Theodore Roosevelt, he was born in struggle. He's a fellow that he didn't preach action because everything had come easy to him. He preached it because he knew what the alternative looked like. We know what the alternative looks like. In a world where they're cutting off little boys' wankers and little girls' tatas to change their gender, and we're watching all this absolute stupidity happen, you know what the difference is? We basically understand. We know. We know what the alternative looks like. Now, what Theodore Roosevelt did is he decided that if I know what the alternative looks like and I just accept it, then I'm just going to be trapped by limitations. And so he knew what it was like to look at one's own weakness, and you either surrender to it or you rise against it. And as you know, my mother was a addicted, alcoholic, drug addicted prostitute who died of AIDS. So much of us is what we decide we're going to be in life, right? What we decide we're going to be in life, not what life has dealt us. And so he knew the difference between either just surrendering to it or rising in, and rise he did, okay? Now, an interesting thing about this fellow who was born sickly, couldn't breathe, it was always the wimpy kid. For him, one of the things he did as a kid is he started by actually building his own muscles, right? That's what shaped his philosophy. Because what happens is when you learn that through effort you can remake yourself, you become suspicious of people that do excuses. And I'll give you an example. You guys, when Brnovich, AG of Arizona, now deceased, when he felt he could slide through and just rock on through and get a senatorship, when in fact he never did anything about the elections, he was leading at 76%. You guys got active, did something about it, started pummeling on Twitter, exposing his stuff, and you drove him to almost fourth place in a field of 4. You also did the same thing talking about it's the paper, the mail-in ballots and stuff, and you look at what President Trump's doing. You've learned many, even getting the Arizona audit, you guys did it because you spoke out. You did that. And so like Theodore Roosevelt learned is once you start exercising that and you make yourself, you kind of look at other things as suspicious. And so Roosevelt as a man had very little patience for excuse making. He had little patience for the idea that life owes us ease before, ironically, it can demand responsibility. That's how it works. Life owes us nothing. We have a responsibility to making a great life, and then we can make it easier. It's not life owes us ease like they're doing with the illegals. He had little patience of waiting for the perfect equipment or the perfect support or the perfect confidence and perfect certainty. That doesn't exist. He understood that every worthy action, if you just waited on ideal conditions, would never happen. It's a simple fact. If every worthy action depended on ideal conditions, then almost nothing of worth would ever be done. And that's why this saying cuts so deep. Do what you can. We all hope it's going to be perfect, and we're waiting for the perfect conditions. Well, we're just going to wait and see if they really got it in Italy. Well, it's not in Italy. We get it in Germany. Well, he's really the president and running the military, and he really got it all. Well, we're just going to wait till they melted the prison bars. We've been through this. But the first part of that is do what you can. See, it doesn't say do everything. It's not even making you responsible for the impossible whole, WHOL. It's not a grand fantasy beyond your reach. Just do what you can. Right there. Just do what you can. That's it. That's how this sickly child rose to what he was, eventually became president, one of the greatest presidents of the United States. Do what you can. But again, we tend to think, well, we got to do it all. The burdens. I have this problem. I many times try the impossible whole. That's with the W. But it's just do what you can. And there's two things in that. Do what you can. Do what you can. There's wisdom in that. It's just do what you can. And then there's mercy in that. You can't do it all. I had to learn that the very hard way in all this audit stuff. I tell you, I had to learn that in this audit stuff because I'd take these freaking politicians personal, people not paying attention. I'd take it personal. I got to do this and that. So in that statement of do what you can, there is both wisdom and mercy. And Roosevelt, no stranger to greatness, but he understood that great lives are not built all at once. I call it the magic wand theory. I do this too, sit back and fantasize. You'll look back over land and go, well, I want a high fence here and I need a new pond here and I wish I could reroute the river here and I could just wave a wand and it'd be done. I call that the magic wand theory. We can spend a lot of time doing it and have that grand fantasy. And it's not that it's out of reach. It's just you can't go poof, 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 and Material Leviosa and Harry Potter it. And that's why you got to understand there's wisdom in it. Do what you can. And there's mercy in it. You can't do it all. But Roosevelt knew. He absolutely knew. And he did many great things in his life. He wasn't a stranger to it. He understood that great lives are not built all at once. But built in that are acts of courage. And that's why I've always said courage is contagious. It's just willing to accept the next duty, the next burden you're going to carry, the next task well done, and understand that most of the time, no crowds applaud it. You know that. No crowds applaud it or applaud you. Just do what you can. That means all of this that we go through only begins and ends, by the way, with the strength that we possess, not the strength we wish we had, just the strengths we possess. Do what you can with what you have, where you are. Begin with the assignments before you, not the one you imagine that would better suit your needs or your gifts. Begin with the truth of the present moment. And that's why do what you can with what you have, with where you are, makes total sense right now, right? Right? I don't know the comment about General Flynn talking about me, what it was. I don't remember at the moment. Maybe you can remind me. But you got to have the courage to do something. Nothing's perfectly going to suit your gifts, just begin now in a moment of truth. Not with dreams of some distant, improved version of you. Start now. Dreams are important. Dreams are wildly important. You got to know where you're going. But the fact of the matter is, it's not glamorous. It's actually what's called durable wisdom. You take that dream, you know where you got to get. But once you get that dream in your head, you're kind of backing off. Okay, what are the steps to get there? The linear thinking, and have the wisdom to do it, right? Having the wisdom to do it. And then you just start. But that's why it's durable wisdom. And when I heard that in Roosevelt's words, I kind of really understood it, right? The time in my life way back when, doing the .com race to go public, had already been a private company worth $1 billion. At that time, I had a value, right, of hiring as many PhD business guys from Harvard I could. I think I had 12. What I learned is 1 out of the 12 could actually execute. The rest was all on the books. But I realized, there's also PhDs that are living in squalor and homeless, because it's not the PhD that matters, it's demand that matters. And you can have wisdom, but if you don't apply that wisdom, it literally means nothing. And that's why I thought was really interesting from Roosevelt's part, it was actually termed durable wisdom. I'd never thought about that either. The application of the wisdom, durable, because it can withstand, it keeps on going. I realize as I do this, we've had to rebuild an entire family place that was destroyed by Helene. It's been a couple of plus years now. It's still not done. And so you got to do what you do what you can. That's the first part of it. See that first third of the sentence? Do what you can. Do what you can. Now, the second part is comes the demand with what you have. I'm the little bouncing ball. With what you have. That's the demand. And it causes you to reflect on how much of human life is wasted on what is missing. How much human life is wasted on what is missing. I'll give you a little key here. I was just shooting the crap, probably in the program. I think it was in the program with my friend Roseanne. Just having a nice time. I love her to death. What a great woman. And I was talking about a time analysis study I was doing for a new book. And I did a time analysis and I chose one little keyword thing. And then I did all the numbers about how often people bitched about that. In other words, how many tweets, this was a Twitter study, was just people bitching about a certain topic. And then when you think about opening the app, feeling coming over you, typing something that's just bitching and complaining and posting it, you look at the time study of that and how many people were doing that, you learn some interesting things. Like when you talk about one of America's greatest engineering products and just how long it took, decades and decades to get right and done, like the Hoover Dam. If we just took the time study of the bitch tweets for that one topic, they could have built the Hoover Dam. If all that collective energy that was put into bitching was put into just executing a project building, it would have been built in 2 years. And so that's the statement that came in this stuff, is how much of human life is wasted staring at what is missing. How many ambitions die not from impossibility, but from comparison? This was a big thing in my family. I was the horrible black sheep because I thought I could. My family's training as poor sharecroppers and stuff is, oh, you can't go do that. You can't do that. How many ambitions died not from impossibility, but from comparisons? If I went back and I go back to those fateful days just at the start of the 2000s, 99 and stuff, and Mark Cuban, who I know very well, right, we're friends, and him saying that, and I still have all the emails. Look, Jovan, nobody's going to scan a code to go to the web. It's just going to be keywords. That's how all that's going to work. And he quoted in an American Airlines magazine, stupidest invention ever. If I had let that kill me and just been the stop of it and never struggled to try to keep the company going, never struggled to bring it out of the dot-com crash or everything, keep the patents go, that would not be a feature on 15 billion devices globally right now. If I just believed what somebody else said, stupidest invention ever. And that's the point, that ambitions don't die from impossibility. They die from comparison. How many people, right, bury their calling between words of if only. If only I had the money. If only I had a different past. If only I had a stronger body. If only I had the connections. If only I had time. If only I had confidence. If only I'd been born into another family, another place, another reason in history. You ever think about that? And so when you look at Roosevelt's quote here on my screen, it flies right in the face of that whole mentality. Use what is in your hand. Do you know right now the odds of you in your own hand, that mobile device you may be watching me on, is like 200 plus, 2,000 plus times the computing power that we use to send the first men into space, and you hold that damn thing in your hand. What billions and billions and billions were spent on TV networks and stuff, you circumvent because you hold that little thing in your hand. Right there. Right there. And sometimes we don't think about the power we have, about what we have in our hands. In reality, right? Using with your hand. You may not have much, but use it. Your means may be small. Use them. Your influence may be limited, but use it. Your field may be narrow. Your resources rough. Your beginnings unimpressive, and maybe even more unimpressive than mine, but still use what you have. History is not only changed by those with abundance, history is more often changed by those who refuse to let scarcity become the alibi. We tend to think in terms of things we don't have instead of just do. I use that many times, right? You got so many projects you want to do on family farms or family or other places. Well, we just don't have the time or resources. For me, you just start it. And once you start it, even though it might not be as fast as you want, it's a constant reminder to me, just do it. Use what you have. You'll get there, but at least start it. Don't have an alibi. Because the world's actually changed for people who don't let that become an alibi. Don't let scarcity. And then the final third part of that, you see, do what you can. Let me get my fingers right. Do what you can. That's the first part. With what you have. That's the second part. And then the third part. And this is the hardest of all. Where you are. Where you are. Where you are. Not somewhere else. Not the imaginary life you think you should have had. Not in the city where you wished you lived. Not in the future role you hope that someday you'll occupy. Not one more delay. Not one more season. No more escape. Where you are. We all fall subject to this, but it's where you are. That means where you stand right now. Your ground, it matters. Doesn't matter what you have, it's your ground. Your street matters, your home matters, your family matters, your work matters. Your present station in life, no matter how small it feels, matters, especially in this fight we've been doing for election integrity. You've moved mountains. For God's sakes, you doing just some of the smallest things, retweet this, share this. Do you understand? You moved an entire state to do a full forensic audit. You kept a rat bastard lawmaker from moving on in politics. You made sure he didn't do it, right? You freaking literally moved the president of the United States. And you're not giving yourself credit, but you did that. You did that. Theodore Roosevelt understood that the drama of life is not confined to just state capitals or the capital of the United States or battlefields or presidential offices. It's found in kitchens and farms and workshops and classrooms and churches and courthouses and sick beds and lonely stretches of roads where no historian is watching. Most heroism is local. There are far more people that are heroes locally and doing things heroic locally than there ever is nationally. Most courage is totally unseen. And most duty arrives without trumpets or fanfare. You just do what you got to do. Do what you can with what you have, with where you are. And that's why with where you are is precisely what matters. Man does not have to rule a nation to live nobly. There was one time in my life, and I tell you this because I think it's very ironic. My faith is rock solid. And I'm 31 years old, praying to God. I'd already done so phenomenal things. Told you I had a crisis when I was 30. What am I going to do next? Prayed to God to make me a billionaire. That was my prayers and petitions to God. Make me a billionaire. Now, what's interesting is God's faithful. I built a massive company believing in myself and getting beat up the whole time, right? $1 billion company when everybody's trying to get public and be $1 billion, I'd done it privately. And then the next phase is I'm going to get public and it'll, I'll personally worth be 6, 7 billion or whatever. 9/11 happens. Lose $800 million one day and watch it go to the drain. And what I realize is very funny. And it's a truism. I prayed to God to make me a billionaire, and he did. I just forgot to ask for it in cash. And that's true. It's true. It's true. I prayed to God to make me a billionaire. Busted my ass and faithfully did it. I just fucking forgot to ask for it in cash. And I laugh about it now, but it's very true because God is so literal. And that's why do what you can with what you have with where you are. And understanding that a man does not have to, man or woman, does not have to rule a nation to live nobly. I now know making bread is something noble. Feeding people is noble. A woman does not need a stage to change a future, a parent shaping a child, or a teacher shaping a mind, or a worker keeping faith with his task, a widow rising through sorrow, a laborer refusing bitterness, a soul carrying pain without surrender. These two is where you're standing in the arena. Right? And Roosevelt proudly believed in get in the arena. That's all it means. Get in the arena. He believed life belongs to those who are willing to enter it, to risk, to strive, to be bruised by contact with the reality of what it is, instead of life preserved in sterile safety of detachment, or I don't give a shit. That it's better to attempt and fail than to sit outside life as critic of other men's efforts. I laugh even in my own life when people will take a shot at me. Oh, it's QCAT and digital convergence and the product failed. Did it fail? Something I gave away for free? How could it fail? And now the software engine brain behind it is on every mobile device, billions of mobile devices around the globe, use billions of time a day. Then if that's failure, then I want everybody to fail. And all of that was very hard on me. It's only in the end you understand how it really goes. And so it's better attempt and fail than sit outside and just be a critic of other men's efforts. Better to spend your life in a worthwhile struggle than preserve your life in idle caution. But Roosevelt, right? His life was the test of fire. Something I missed in understanding the life of Roosevelt was the year of 1884. And I never knew this. I don't know how I missed it. But Teddy Roosevelt, on a day in 1884, in the same day, lost his brand new wife and his mother in a house fire. One house, one date, two unbearable losses. He lost his wife and his mother in the same house. That's the kind of grief that splits most people in two. In two is before and after event. Many men would be broken there and remain broken. Stories say Roosevelt was broken for a time. He left when that happened. Had to re-find himself again. He went to the Dakota Badlands, and if you know that, it's a harsh country of wind and solitude and labor and weather. Beautiful place, but hard place. And in that landscape, had himself stripped down to his first principles, and there amid the emptiness, he rebuilt again. Not by escaping it, not by escaping sorrow, but by living through it. And that distinction matters, because I tell people even what I told you. I lost thousands of employees, company, accolades, limos, jets, a wife. Well, her boyfriend got her, all in basically a day's event, and my family. Sorrow was tough, but I escaped it. I lived through it. It's that distinction that matters. It really is that distinction that matters. And Roosevelt's different because he talked about his pain. He didn't offer, some rah-rah, sis, boom, bah, the world is great, positive thinking. He didn't say pain was unreal or grit erased grief. He knew better. He knew that suffering leaves marks. He knew there were blows that cannot nearly be explained away. And he knew that life can and will wound deeply without warning. But the one thing he believed in was action. He still believed in duty. He still believed in the answer to despair is not being passive, but engagement, steady, imperfect, stubborn engagement with the work of living. And that's why this one line survives. Doesn't end, right? Or actually, it doesn't even depend on optimism. It just depends on courage. Doesn't depend on optimism. It depends on courage. That's it. Just courage. That's why I've always said courage is contagious. Right? Doesn't require that the world be fair, because it's not. Doesn't require to get an immediate reward, because more than likely you don't. You know that just from gardening. Does not assure victory, and it does not assure that your labor at all of these things will be remembered. It's actually the harder thing to do. It's to be something, it says something that's sterner, that's actually harder, perhaps more noble, is act anyway. Not because you're certain, but because the duty remains. That's why we fight against this stuff, folks. We don't know how any of this is going to end. We just know the rat bastards do it to us, and our success is not certain. But we do it because the duty remains. We don't do it because we have everything, because we don't. We do it because we have something inside us. It's not because we stand in the ideal circumstances, because we don't. Because we're doing this where we're standing where we are. And so what happens, you need to understand, is wherever you stand, life has already placed some claim upon you. Right now, we're in this, just doing what we can, being active and save our country. Roosevelt talked about this in the form of drift. People drifting away from their nation, drifting away from their goals or ideas. To delay, don't drift. The spirit decays. Spiritual decay comes from endless hesitation. Stop hesitating. It is a cancer. It's like being negative. Stop hesitating. Do. It's those words. Do what you can with what you have, where you are. Because if you're not, spiritual decay, it's coming. And it does not hesitate or wait on you. He basically believed his happiness is not, it's ironic what he said, that happiness is not pursued directly. It kind of comes as you work at it, right? The things that slip through your fingers. Find your comfort in God. Find your comfort. If you can do that, you find your world becomes smaller, softer, right? Etc. Give yourself comfort in what must be done. And ironically, folks, it's always strive, labor, protect, endure. Strive, labor, protect, endure, and build. In those positive things, which always leaves something left over. Just worrying about it leaves nothing left over except probably cancer in your body or ill thoughts. But all those positive statements, to strive to source for something, to labor towards something, to build something, to protect something, to endure, something deeper emerges. And that deeper thing is self-respect. And in self-respect, because you know you're doing your best and you are doing what you can with what you have, where you are, what emerges from that is self-respect. And strange, you feel better just you've lived life honestly. And that, in Roosevelt, that was the kind of happiness he said he lived. That's the happiness he pursued, meeting life honestly, not luxury, not indulgence, not the endless case. That's why he was for the people and people loved him. That happiness comes after effort. Peace comes after courage. Dignity comes from carrying your load instead of cursing it. And that's kind of why his words feel so urgent now, because every age invents new ways to postpone action, right? Isn't that the truth? We all have kind of new ways, new thoughts to put it off new reasons to put it off. Every age does it. And every generation becomes skilled at explaining why now is not the time, why obstacles are too many, why someone else should go first, why conditions are not right, why one more delay is reasonable. And into all that fog comes this old command, sharp as a sword, sharp as iron. Do what you can with what you have, where you are. Do not wait to become someone else. Do not wait for a better century, a better government, a better body, a better childhood, a better economy, or a better break. Do not despise small beginnings. Do not assume that usefulness belongs only to the powerful. Do not imagine that your corner of the world is too humble for courage. Begin there. Here's the deal. You're going to begin tired. You're going to begin uncertain. You're going to begin wounded. You're going to begin with very little. You're going to begin without applause, and you're going to begin without guarantees, but begin. Because in Roosevelt's world, and perhaps in truth itself, character is not formed in the dream of action. It is formed from action. It is formed when a person looks at the hard, unfinished, imperfect materials of your life and says, this is enough ground to stand on. This is enough burden to bear. This is enough opportunity to serve. I will not wait for the ideal conditions before I choose to be faithful. That is the spirit in this whole statement. Do what you can with what you have, where you are. And that was Theodore Roosevelt. And believe me, we all know we were a far better country then, before we became weak and soft, before we got participation trophies. We look at it, we know it. We were healthier, we were thinner, we were more fit, we were sharper, we were better well-read. We've done this to ourselves. Theodore Roosevelt was a man of storm, right? A man of saddle. One of books, one of battle. That's what they say. One of fierce energy, one of quiet conscience, a man who knew weakness, knew grief, knew struggle, and then answered them not with retreat, but exertion. And that message, to this day, still endures. This is not a slogan. It's not a slogan. There's a subtle difference. This is what's called a summons. It's a three-part summons. A summons to reject excuse, a summons to embrace duty, a summons to meet the hour in front of you with whatever strength remains in your hands, a summon to live so that circumstance doesn't become your master. Because in the end, life is not measured if it began with every advantage. And you're seeing that in society today. It's being discounted. It means nothing. We rebuild by being strong men and women. Life, period, is about standing where you stood with whatever you had and doing with it whatever you could. Every one of you have been participating in this, and you may not realize it. You may not realize it. Every one of you have participated in this, and you have done great things. And it's because we're the generation that is dealing with this. It's basically coming here. It's on us. Yes, we all wish we could wave the magic wand and fix our elections and get rid of this crap and stop the invading whores and do hordes. Invading whores would be okay, but hordes, stop all that stuff, right? But the fact of the matter is, do what you can with what you have, with where you are. And that's what moves the needle. Watch the rolling credits. I'm headed over to Locals next. We're going to continue with my study on Islam, and we're going to study the invading hordes, 72 virgins. See you over there.
Our courts are based on clear and convincing evidence. Want convictions? Want justice? For what happened in the 2020 election? Then we need your help. Not fixing 2020 will damn our nation forever. The decision you make in the next few moments could decide whether we ever get our elections fixed or not. Here's why. Trump campaign and allies filed 64 different lawsuits. They all went down in flames. 100% of these cases were presented on "It's the machines," or "The machines changed the votes," or "The voting company executive said he would make sure Donald J. Trump would not win." They all went down in flames. Why? You can't bring theories to court as evidence. No supposed Zoom call or six-degree polynomial math theory or census data is or ever will be proof of fraud. You can't bring theories to court as evidence. Here's why. In both civil and criminal law, the side making a claim carries the burden of proof, and prosecutors must prove guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. Without physical or otherwise verifiable evidence, a case cannot meet this high threshold. Physical evidence is the key. The question is, did anyone get relevant, reliable, provable, testable, and duplicatable evidence of what really happened in the 2020 general election? And the answer is yes, absolutely. The full forensic audit of Maricopa County, Arizona is the only evidence-gathering work which gathered relevant, reliable, provable, testable, and duplicatable evidence of what really happened in the 2020 general election. Evidence so damning that the system, the deep state, and those who pull the strings of this country have fought to keep it hidden and have hoped to have it be forgotten to time. Almost $3 million invested in time, funds, and efforts to unlock that which the system wanted hidden. But now, that evidence is in danger of being lost forever. So if you want what happened in the 2020 election fixed, then we need your help. Please donate to protect and secure this historic evidence. With the 2026 midterms coming up, the system is going to try to lame duck President Trump and then most likely introduce new impeachment proceedings. This is the evidence which will help win the war which is surely to come. We need to keep Maricopa County full forensic investigation and archives secure and ongoing. So if you want what happened in the 2020 election fixed, then we need your help. Please donate to protect and secure this historic evidence. We need your help securing the full forensic audit archives. Don't allow the only testable, objective, and reliable 2020 election evidence fall into obscurity. Millions were spent on getting it documented and tested. This is historic evidence. Not fixing 2020 will damn our nation forever. The historic Maricopa County full forensic audit effort processed 20,895,610 digital and forensic images of varying formats, resulted in 208 million individual evidence-proof files. The system processed over 58 billion forensic measurements, resulting in over 2 trillion individual base computations. No hopium, no hype, just hardcore forensic evidence. Please make sure the Maricopa County full forensic audit archives survive. Donate now. So if you want what happened in the 2020 election fixed, then please donate to protect and secure this historic evidence. We can't do it without you. We need you. America needs you. Our future needs you. Please donate now. Not fixing 2020 will damn our nation forever. Please donate now.